You are listening to the Business Leadership Podcast with Edwin Frondozo.
I'm Paul Newton, creative producer of the Future Narrator miniseries, and I'm joined by Edwin Frondozo, host of the Business Leadership Podcast. We are recording live at Web Summit Vancouver 2025, where we're exploring how today's leaders shape the future, not just through strategy, but through story. We believe that a strong point of view is what inspires communities, builds movements, and cuts through the noise in uncertain times. So let's dive into this conversation. Today's guest didn't set out to be an entrepreneur. He just couldn't stop building things that worked. Avery Pennarun is co-founder and CEO of Tailscale, a company reimagining secure networking through a zero-trust, developer-friendly approach. Known for turning impossible ideas into elegant systems, Avery has spent his career translating bold visions into working code and often into full-fledged companies. Whether he's building low-level drivers, architecting network protocols, or making secure infrastructure radically simple, Avery brings a rare mix of technical brilliance and product strategy. And while he'll tell you he just likes to code, the trail of innovation he leaves behind says he's very much a builder and very much a founder.
Welcome to the Business Leadership Podcast, Avery. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, and I just want to say I don't know who wrote that intro, but that was amazing.
Oh no, thank you so much. That was our friend Paul here with our aid of your information on the web and our ChatGPT assistance.
Wait. And we, like Toastmasters, if you don't introduce people properly, you don't set the stage for who they are or what they bring to the table. So.
Right, but now we've set unrealistically high standards for the rest of the conversation.
No, I mean, it's good. It's good. And we're going to be fine. Avery, so as mentioned, we're here at Web Summit Vancouver on the tail end of your speak. How's been your day, and how's your experience here so far?
I mean, it's been a very exciting conference. I got to talk on the main stage yesterday and on the AI stage today.
Wow.
Which I thought was kind of funny, Tailscale not being an AI company, but everybody wants to hear about AI. So I'm like, all right, you want to hear about AI? I can talk to you about AI if you like. And we did.
That's amazing. Any key takeaways from your time here already so far? A memorable one, a conversation you may have had?
Well, this is the first time Web Summit's been in Vancouver, and it's also the first time I've been at Web Summit. So it's fun. I think there's lots of cool people here. One of the things that's a little shocking, there's a speaker lounge, which I know you guys have seen. Many people don't get to see. It's big and it's full of people because they have so many speakers at this conference. This is a gigantic conference. It's like probably one of the biggest I've ever been to.
Yeah.
There's so much stuff going on. There's so many things on the show floor. There's so many people here. Everybody's like excited about things. High energy.
Yeah, and we're just really facilitating those human connections, right? Curious, and if you could just share, Avery, if you could, about Tailscale and really the problem that you're solving when it comes to secure networking and that zero trust infrastructure.
Sure. So Tailscale, fundamentally, what it does is it just lets you connect one device to another device or any other number of devices. So it is very much like what the internet is supposed to do. For those of us who are old enough, we can remember back in the 1990s, and the vision of the internet was, what does it do? It lets you connect a computer to another computer anywhere in the world, right? And it's weird how now that is such a hard problem, right? If you try to connect your phone to your laptop without a wire, how do you do it, right? There's no good answer. I want to send a photo from my phone to my laptop. Maybe I can use AirDrop if they're both Apple products. And AirDrop works like 50% of the time if they're right next to each other, right? But 0% of the time if they're not right next to each other, right? And if they're not both Apple products, you got nothing. Right? It's like, I can't send a photo from one computer to another. Like, why? Well, because TCP/IP, the internet protocol, has been frozen in time for like 30 or 40 years now. It hasn't changed. And now, like, you can't find the address. You can't get a name of the device. Everything's behind a firewall. If you go somewhere else, it's behind two different firewalls. There's just no way to connect them to each other. And it's devolved into this world where if you want to send data from one place to another, you go up to the cloud and back. And both directions, you get charged rent by a big cloud provider. Right? So what used to be like the FTP protocol back in the 90s, you file transfer from one thing to another, and it's basically free except for the bytes. Amazon gets to charge you to send stuff from between two things that are sitting side by side on your desk, right? And Tailscale makes that part go away. We make a connection direct between those two things, no matter where they are in the world, without forwarding through anybody else's infrastructure. and getting at maximum speed and encrypted and attached to your identity, right? And that's useful for sending photos to between your devices, but it's also useful for companies who have the same problems, right? They have computers scattered at different places in the world. They have employees, especially post-COVID, who are like often working from home, don't come into the office, need to access all this stuff. And those things need to be able to find each other. And if you're forwarding it through a central relay, it makes it slow and it's expensive. And Tailscale just eliminates that complexity and eliminates the slowness.
I mean, Avery, that's two things. First thing that came to mind as you described the problem, we have this video camera here that does all our podcasts. I was there last night. I was telling Paul, I got to transfer this. What do you think? How should I do this? Because eventually we want to give yourself the raw audio and your team the raw video. And we have a Notion board. I'm like, okay, do I airdrop this or do I connect this thing or do I do this? And then should I put it to Google or do I put it back to this and then get it to Notion? I think I broke my brain yesterday just thinking about how many different ways I could go.
Yep.
And they weren't easy.
And think about how many decades we have spent as an industry not solving that problem.
Oh my gosh.
It's amazing. That's the thing that everybody wants to do is move data from one computer to another. Like, oh yeah, that's hard.
And all really you should just be like, right there.
Of course.
Just put it right there. All right, right there.
Of course. And it was like the very first or second, I forget which order they came in, protocol on the original internet standard in like 1970. There was Telnet and FTP.
Yeah.
Right? You could FTP things in like 1970 between any two computers on the internet.
Yeah.
And now you can't. Like, how weird is that?
Yeah. And why did they get rid of that anyways? I mean, it's such a problem that most people don't even realize, I would say, that they have, right? I mean, they know the challenge, they get it done, and they forget about it, I think.
Exactly. We get a lot of people who try Tailscale, especially like nerdy technical people who like think they know everything and have a lot of experience. And they try Tailscale and they're like, I'm actually angry now. And I'm not angry at you.
I'm angry right now.
I'm angry about the fact that I've spent my entire life not realizing the pain I was in, and it just suddenly disappeared.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, what? Who did this to me? Right? And they have this shock moment where it's like, the internet just worked the way it obviously should have worked. And it should have worked like this. And I forgot that it should work like this. It's just, I assume that this mess is the normal situation and it just always has to be that way. And it doesn't.
You know, I mean, that's great. And I'm really glad that you are working on it, but I'm curious, as you described it, and part of it is being a tech person or a developer, you sometimes you get really down to the layer 1, layer 2, layer. Some of my listeners may not even, you probably lost them at that point. But when we described going, just putting files, I'm curious, what is your personal unique point of view, and what do you bring to this problem that will help solve it?
So I've been doing networking for a long time.
Yeah.
I started, let's see, when was it? It was when I was in high school. We had a dial-up internet at home, and my sister wanted to use the computer and use the dial-up internet and talk to her friends on Internet Relay Chat, IRC, for those of us who remember it. And I wanted to use the internet at the same time. And this was a problem because there was only one phone line and only one modem. So I downloaded this thing called Linux. I figured out how to connect two computers to each other. I figured out how to share the connection on the modem between these two computers so that she could do her IRC while I did my other stuff, right? And like I was, maybe 14, 15 years old at the time. And this knowledge sort of like propelled itself into, I got a job at the city's first internet provider, like commercial one, because they were having trouble running their systems. And somebody like, hey, this Avery guy I think might be able to help you. And I was like 15 at the time. I got my driver's license shortly after getting my job at this company. My dad had to drop me off at work to fix the internet for my hometown of Thunder Bay. And it's kind of like, it's been around and around and around and around since then. I worked at Google Fiber, where we were bringing gigabit internet to the people of Kansas City, Missouri, and then Kansas City, Kansas, in that order. I actually didn't know before I got to Google that there were two cities.
Just doing that right now.
Exactly. And I'm embarrassed to say this because it turns out like most people know this. And the big one is Kansas City, Missouri, incidentally. Kansas City, Kansas is smaller. Anyway, so we brought it in gigabit internet. Our team built Wi-Fi routers. And, the joke we used to have on my team is that the reason you're not getting your gigabit internet is us. Because you can get gigabit fiber into your house, but nobody connects to the gigabit fiber, right? They're all on Wi-Fi, and Wi-Fi simply did not go to gigabit. It kind of if you're really careful about your configuration, you can maybe get that today, but nobody realistically does. But you could theoretically. But at the time, absolutely not, right? So everybody bought a gigabit and then went straight to speedtest.net and found out they weren't getting a gigabit and called their support line. And that was, it was our job to be at fault for that. But we built these Wi-Fi routers and we tried to get as close to a gigabit as we could. And it was really fun building that project because we shipped like hundreds of thousands and eventually millions of devices out to individual customers. And we can monitor all the network and optimize it as that. So I've been doing networking for a long time. I'm quite old. I'm one of the people who's left who remembers the vision of the internet from the 1980s and 90s. A lot of people starting it now just inherited the thing that works the way it works. And there's like flaws pretty low down in the stack. And instead of fixing those flaws, we've been piling pieces on top. And now you've got this mountain of workarounds that everybody just assumes has to be there. And very few people are brave enough to do the archaeology and dig their way down in the stack down to the actual source of the problem.
Oh, I love that. That you're just like, oh yeah, I'm old enough to remember that. And I love that it started with your sister, right? And those fights that, over that one phone line, first of all, you're on the phone and it's busy or whatever. And that's what we had to deal with. And then a call waiting came and it's answer it or what have you. But the fact that you're okay, I'm going to connect two computers to this. And it's just going back to these really simple things that we forgot could be simple. So yeah, I guess that introduction wasn't so bad, making something elegantly simple. Because how did it get so complicated?
Yeah. I think a lot of people are afraid to touch the part they don't understand, right? And especially in computing, we're okay, we just assume this mound of complexity is there. And it's really hard to, there's all kinds of social reasons and technological reasons. It's hard to change somebody else's mound of complexity. It's pretty easy to add another thing on top of the mound of complexity. One of my friends has this saying that's taken from some computer scientists. It's you can solve any problem by adding another layer of indirection, except the problem of too many layers of indirection, right? And it's absolutely true. As long as you don't care how many layers the system has, you can usually work around your problem by adding one more layer. And then somebody else will show up and add one more layer and one more layer and one more layer and one more layer, right? If you develop a web app nowadays, you could write HTML. Nobody wants to just write HTML. They need 17 frameworks. They need Node.js downloading 700 packages that all have dependencies and other dependencies. And it builds megabytes or tens of megabytes of garbage that then it uploads to your browser to display an HTML page, right? Why is that there? Because each of those layers was designed by somebody and nobody knows how it works anymore. And they don't want to know. So can I just grunge this pile of complexity over into this corner? And I guess I'm maybe I enjoy pain, but I'm you know what? I prefer to write my web pages with HTML and I prefer to do my networking at this low level with packets and stuff. And I want the packets to work, right? And there's people out there that when I make it work or when me and our team makes it work, they appreciate that. They're oh, thank goodness. Now there's a new ball that I don't have to look inside, but it's so much smaller than the old ball that I didn't want to look inside.
So you just don't deal with workarounds. You just start fresh.
We all spend most of our life dealing with workarounds, right? But my biggest successes have been just slicing through. And Tailscale is a company where we're you know what, we could actually just do this. Let's make a company that slices through all these workarounds and we'll sell the new ball, right? And a part of it is for individual users, we give it away for free. And the way it's designed, it doesn't really cost us anything because we don't route your traffic, which means we don't pay for any bytes, right? You're the one generating the traffic on your own existing internet connection that you're already paying for, which means we can give away lots and lots and lots of Tailscale and it doesn't really cost us anything. And then the people who want to pay us are companies who want centralized control and all the auditing and administration and logs and stuff like that we can give them sort of on top.
Oh, wow. And so Web Summit came to Vancouver. You've never been to Web Summit. And so you're well, it's time to speak here. And you got right up on center stage. What's your objective?
Do I have an objective? I guess our PR team would say our objective is to get more famous more quickly. Excuse me. Because we want more people to know about Tailscale. And most people who find out about Tailscale can go to an app store and download it and use it for free. Right? There's the free plan is up to 3 users, up to 100 devices, which is more than almost anybody needs for almost anything for their personal use. And that's not going away. There's no time limit. There's no throughput limits. You can use it for whatever you want. There's no non-commercial use limits, none of that stuff. But turns out a lot of people who do that are techies. Techies often have jobs. and they will bring Tailscale to work to solve, after they've solved some problems at home, they're like, hey, pattern matching, I have a problem like that at work.
Yeah.
And it's really stupid how we're solving it at work. Why don't we use Tailscale instead? And next thing you know, it's at work, it's spreading around, and then they're buying it for the company. And so the more people who know about Tailscale, the better off we are. All of our customers come through that path. We don't do outbound sales or anything like that. We do just like awareness, and people tell their friends, in some case, like bludgeon their friends repeatedly, saying like, no, stop complaining, just download Tailscale. It'll literally take you 5 minutes. Just do it. I'm so tired of hearing you complain, right? And they finally do it. And they're like, oh, now I see why you told me that so many times. I should have just spent the 5 minutes.
So then you're the guy that sees how to make something really complicated that has evolved over time simple.
Yeah. That was my big innovation. What started Tailscale. Now I'm the guy who does a bunch of bureaucratic stuff to run a company of 160 people.
Okay.
Just a leader.
Yeah. And then people like tell me to go to Web Summit, and they're like, Avery, I wrote you like a talk proposal. Does this sound good? And I'm like, yes. And then they put me on the main stage, and I'm like, oh, I guess I better live up to this.
And here we are.
Yeah, and here we are.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing the backstory. It's been great.
Yeah, Avery, there's a lot everywhere I want to go. You paint a lot of pictures. I may look younger than most people know, but I remembered the dial-up. One of my business partners, he set up his own BBS. He had motherboards on the basement floor, 8 lines, to a house. So it's really interesting that this problem you're solving, and I think what might be very interesting in terms of, you really got into this very specific use case. But the layering challenge, I think, is getting worse now with AI. Like no one knows. So I'm a computer engineer. I remember when OO was new. I did machine learning. Like I did assembler. I did zeros and ones. I know how that works, but no one knows how that works. And the layer is so big now, and it's just getting even worse. So I think the mission and what's refreshing is that you're cutting through that. And I think there's an awareness to that for people, future generations, are like, how did we come to this?
Yeah. I mean, the thing that gives me the biggest aneurysms with AI is AI code generation. It's like, let's just think about this. We made the ball of complexity so big that like nobody can even understand how to use it anymore. Mm-hmm. So you know what we should do? We should use an even bigger ball of complexity over here to learn how the first ball of complexity works, and then write even more crap to pile on top that more or less does what you want.
Yeah.
And then people are like, oh, now I need to debug it.
That's right.
Well, I don't understand the code. I didn't write it. Now it's like a ball of complexity with a ball of complexity on top. The easiest thing to do with a ball of complexity with a ball of complexity on top to fix your problem is add another ball of complexity on top. But I don't know how to do that. I'm going to ask this first ball of complexity to write another ball of complexity and stack it on top. Yeah. It's like, guys, it's horrible.
Yeah.
It offends my sensibility.
Yeah, no.
It's also probably going to work.
Yeah.
Right? Because what is evolution? What are humans? It's just like a pile of hacks piled on top of more hacks, right? And evolution produced it, over billions of years using genetic algorithms. But like, if you actually look at how the human body works, there's all kinds of terrible stuff going on in there, right? Like, one thing that was like came from when we were fish or whatever, and it's like still there. Why is it still there? It never evolved out again. Right. So like, it's interesting, like we're just regenerating the same kinds of stuff over again. And we know that can work, but it's also kind of the antithesis of engineering, which is the course I took in school. And engineering has this sort of element of like elegance, the concept of like, you could do this better, right? You could design this to like specifications. You can learn
with less.
You can learn to make things good.
Yeah.
Right. And you can learn to control like what probability of failure there will be, right? And it's never 0 because you can't build anything that's like perfect and infallible. But you can understand the level of the probability of failure. You can make something that's predictable and reliable if you follow the steps to do that, right? And it's so tempting to just give up on that and like pile crud on top of crud, or like make a machine to pile crud on top of crud, and then we have no idea what's going on, but at least it's not your fault.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, look, yes, you can do that. And I know everyone's going to do that.
Yeah.
Right? But it doesn't mean we have to stop doing the other thing.
That's right.
Right? We can keep making good things. And, the good thing we made also going to be something the ball of complexity can write code for. Yeah. Right? So if we can eliminate some of this pile of garbage, people are still going to use the AI code generators, but at least the AI code generators will have an easier time of it.
Yeah. I got a question. Before we end, I'm curious if you could share, and I'm going to put some context for you, given to your journey and what you shared. I'd love to get final thoughts, advice, or actionable recommendations specifically to the business leader or the entrepreneur who has to get away from doing the work, doing the code, and really become the leader. Like, what kind of advice could you share with those people, those founders who are here at Web Summit? They might be here already and they don't know how to do that yet.
Yeah, well, yeah, there's a lot of people who've had to go through that process. I've had to go through that
Yes.
process. I don't get to write out code nowadays.
Yeah.
Kind of makes me sad. So it's hard to let go of that. Often, I mean, the first time you do it, you will probably screw it up because you'll delegate to people that were not ready to be delegated to, or were not the people that you wanted to delegate to, or they do it differently from you in like a bad way. As opposed to like everyone's going to do it differently from you, but if you get great people and you put them in the right team and you give them the right information, they'll do it differently from you, like maybe in a good way, maybe even better than you would have done it.
That's right.
Right? And so at Tailscale, it took, I have had a pretty long career. This is not my first startup. People are doing Tailscale better than I would have done it, all right? Better than me and my co-founders did it back in 2019 when we started, right? And that's kind of exciting, right? But you have to it takes a lot of work and a lot of, gaining experience, but you can actually build a team of individuals who, each of which can do something better than you can. And together, the whole team does everything better than you can. And that's when you get something that's working really well.
Well, that's an amazing advice. That's a mic drop, Avery. Thank you for sharing that. Before we let you go, we want to present you a book called Future Narrative. Paul and I co-authored this together.
Ooh.
It's for the business leaders who are out there now telling the stories, getting on stage in Web Summit and learning how to inspire, because those who are telling the good stories can not only get more investment, people that work for them, ultimately build a community and get more clients. So we want to present that to you. And thank you for joining us on the Business Leadership Podcast.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And thanks for having me.
You are listening to the Business Leadership Podcast with Edwin Frondozo.